And welcome to another edition of Indiepocalypse Radio, your pre-convention edition of Indiepocalypse Radio. As I go to make my way to Boston, and then Berlin, and then I think I get a couple weeks back, and then I go to New York, and then I might go to Toronto. I don't know. Do I make a after I do a 1 day in and out trek to New York? Do I do a 1 day in and out trek to uh, you know Toronto? These are questions I'm thinking aloud, and I'm not asking people to think. I'm just like, let me think about these things aloud so that I can process them through my own brain. But we're not here for me to process things through my own brain. We're here to talk to developers and other artists throughout the world today. Developers. Our first developer, who you may know from a wide variety of things within Indiepocalypse issue 26, it was Give Me Decay. I was almost reading the other one. Is Decay within the Indiepocalypse Tape Club as of I think a week ago. It's not the Indiepocalypse Tape Club stuff. I'm mixing up my brands. I Hate You Please Suffer is the game. In the Pizza Pranks Tape Club. Fucking why have brands? And then of course Indie Hell Zone. It's Dari. Dari, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I prefer to go by Dairy though.
Dari, I should have. The thing is, I realized it as I was spinning up. And I was like, ah, shit. This could go two ways, and I spun it and I said it the wrong way. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool.
I took that
Uh,
50.
uh,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I hope that no one's hearing like the wind outside on my end.
I think a little tiny, like it peeks through occasionally, but whatever. It adds a certain ambiance to it all. I have I do not worry too much about the audio quality on anyone on this thing. I have remember an early one. Someone sounded like they were calling in through a landline, and a couple of weeks ago, somebody did call in through was ostensibly a landline from a convention floor. Uh, it's part of the charm, I think, of call-in radio, which is kind of the my part of the inspiration of the show itself, which you can't assume everyone calling you in is going to have a professional podcaster setup, so I'm not worried about that. Um, but that all said, if people are if people are unfamiliar, I listed down a bit of credits. You can let's start with, I guess, the most recent one related to my own project. If people are unfamiliar with I Hate You Please Suffer, how would you describe it?
Uh, I guess if I could describe it, it's
Yeah.
about trying to trying to carve your own space in a world, trying to find happiness despite like all the weird bullshit that gets thrown at you.
Right, which is what's the word I'm looking for? A lot. I was looking for a fancy word for it, but I could not find it, and I just found uh, the simplest version, which is a lot that is just kind of everywhere. Uh, I feel like Indie Apocalypse was born in uh, the life of trying to escape essential workerhood in the middle of COVID. Not because of that. That was just a coincidence. Um, but I feel like you can also feel the intensity if you look back at me, in that you're like, oh, there's a desperation to survive. And I think that kind of like permeates life more than we want it to, which is a non-zero amount. Uh, but games are also a perfect avenue for uh, you know conveying frustrations.
Mm-hmm.
They, and largely in part because you can put people through torment, where where in many times their life does not present it. You can give them a little slice of, hey, what if everything sucked, and what if everything also cost money, and that actually mattered to you, which is that's a thing that often, I think the second part is something that people forget sometimes, that things costing money matters a lot.
Yeah, everything costs money all the time.
Right.
Make everyone buy chips.
Yeah, it's like the increasing, like, what if everything was worse, and what if it cost more money? Is seems to be like the natural trajectory of like life. What if we made buses worse and they cost more money? Let's call them fucking. I forget what that thing is called now, but
Uh,
uh, the stupid those stupid tunnels that are.
oh, oh, those.
Yes, those. I I forget what those things are, but
I, I, I think there's one in my city. The boring tunnels, you mean?
yeah, I think so. The automated car tunnels,
Yeah,
because
it's so stupid.
could not be bothered uh, to you know you don't need to. That's also that extra layer of, no need to see the people up top. Like, how can the ultra rich have a very strict sanitized version of their life where they see no one under six figures. No need to even know they exist.
Yeah. Well, our tunnels are underground, so it's more like they're below us than anything.
Oh yes, right. Yeah. Yeah.
But man, we kill for monorail.
I think about constantly, like, wouldn't like any kind of reliable trains, just anything, because uh I took like, I'd have to look, but my train uh the thing that train trip I mentioned to New York, I think it cost me like $60 both
Hey,
way,
what the fuck?
like both ways. Like,
Oh, oh, oh.
and it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure if I flew in, it would cost me like, it would both be a pain, and and then be like $400 or something. But instead, I
Oh
was like, oh,
god.
it's super easy, and it costs nothing, basically. But I've also tried to. Oh, sorry, I was wrong. It's 89. It was $89.
And that's worse.
It is worse, but it also, like, five. That trip to Toronto. Like, I've thought about, because it is like an hour flight from me, but it is also a 24-hour train ride somehow.
Huh.
Just like the infrastructure, how it all is and how it all works through, is, I would say, impractical at best.
Yeah, I don't get transportation at all.
But all that aside, all the logistics of transportation aside, you I also mentioned, uh, Indie Hell Zone. If people, you might get an impression of it saying that it's not a game, and the name, but how would you describe Indie Hell Zone?
I guess it's more like my space for blabbing about in the games I think are interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes manga, I guess.
Yes. And sometimes it's the beauty of having your own thing. Sometimes album, sometimes the thing you think about uh, off the top of your head. Um,
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
which predates which? Which were you doing first? Like game development, or I should say, public game releases, because often game development precedes actually releasing things um, and writing about them.
I I actually think Indie House and me making games start around the same time because, or like my first game was like something I made for like my first game jam for Itch.
Yeah.
That was a gang of weirdos all the way back in 2016. And I think I started Indie House in 2016, but I can't remember. It it,
I,
it was either 2016 or 2017.
Yeah, I'm looking. I was mildly scrolling to look because I was curious myself because I've just the very extremely beginning of 2017, at least as far as your uh I don't know if there was any website migration that would have deleted anything, um but yeah, no, so basically on top of each other, uh
Oh,
and yeah, that I mean that is I've been saying, I've been thinking more recently about how like uh, nobody survives better than hobbyists, um, and the idea that in doing these things, uh, you you're assuredly like longer lived in development than like uh, some studios come and burn out. They have one game and maybe it doesn't hit, or maybe it hits but not enough, and then they just vanish into the ether. Uh, but there's the
oh, yeah. I will never let myself die, no
right.
matter what.
There's that strange persistence of uh, no budget and no profits.
Yeah, I guess if there's nothing weighing me down, I'll just keep trying to make things.
Right, right. And it's kind of like the thing that I'm like is both admirable. I'm like, man, wouldn't it be nice if also like unsurprising, I think constantly, but like, wow, wouldn't it be nice if like all these like really talented people didn't have to do like rent GoFundMe's every 7 months or whatever. Uh,
Yeah, that would be great for them.
it's it's like this true uh, like a misfortune of the, especially I think the indie games. I guess that's all art. That's all art is all consolidating up to the top until hopefully eventually it crumbles down a little because people get sick of it. But uh, I saw on my one of my rare glimpses online I saw on Wednesday when I was posting this was someone talking about how every indie game, and I use indie when I see people say that, they mean, of course, people with budgets. But the idea of every indie game now is more focus tested than some studio games were back in the day, or not focus tested, but just like tested and play tested and like the rigorous kind of that kind of thing. I was like, is that better though? um, to
Yeah,
have
I would never play test my shit, man.
right,
Like, I mean, focus testing, play
yeah,
testing, is
yeah.
important.
Well, I mean, you play test to make sure it doesn't break fully. But especially if you're making like a let's say like a 20-hour RPG, how much can one
Yeah,
can how much can one reasonably test it without like, oh, well, if I break into chunks and test these chunks, but what if, you never know what creeps through and breaks something 5 hours apart from each other, you know?
I yeah, I had to do a lot of play testing, and like even after release, people are still finding like some bugs
Right.
that need to be fixed up.
I mean, but that's the beauty of like all video games. That's whatever Nintendo, uh, has, all these, they have revisions. Just for a lot of times we never saw them. Or we didn't understand that games got revisions because you didn't like bring a Super Nintendo cartridge into the EB Games to have them patch it for you. You just like somebody later you would get like maybe revision 2 in the US versus like the version that came out in Japan and that kind of thing. And now every game developer must be on top of and squishing their bugs.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that I'm finally done. I mean, there's still I've seen like typos and stuff,
Right.
but I really don't want to update it unless there's like a bigger problem. Please
Yeah.
just lift my typo.
Something. Right. For the most part, people can, that idea that if you see the first and last letters, in general, a lot of times the brain can fill in the rest. So a lot of times people will see a typo, but it doesn't actually impact like the reading of anything.
Yeah, I just please put up with my typos. There's so much text in the game.
Right. You're you're sitting there typing um whatever 20 hours equates to in terms of, numbers of words without like, editors to run them by and playtesting teams to run them all by to check for those kinds of things. Whatever. They happen and only for the worst pedants, I think, does it actually impact anything. It's for people at conventions to like point at that and go, "Oh, look, there's a typo," and for you to go, "Okay, did you not understand what the sentence said? That's fine." You still know you still even knew what that word was, huh? I guess it's probably fine then. I've gotten I don't know if you've done any sort of like public showings, public events or anything.
Oh no.
But I've developed an exhaustion with them. um, and it's especially nice with the zine to be like, these games are both I did not make them and they're done. I do not care what you think.
Yeah, I don't think I can ever do public showings. I'm usually like a shy person, and I would think like I don't think my games would be interesting for a public showing since they're outside of the writing. They're kind of the basic RPG makers games, and also
Right.
I don't even know how to. There's actually a convention going on today that my sister's going to, and I once saw I was like, hey, maybe I should have a booth there sometime. But then I remembered, no, I can't even handle going to a convention as a guest. I don't think I can handle it as like a
Yeah, it takes
exhibitor.
a lot. Um, I mean, and part of my whole thing is to try to also be that that public facing personality for people, because I think the expectation that like how many where are all your TikToks where you're talking about your game development process. I assume you have a ton of those, right?
I No,
Right.
I have a TikTok, but like I don't. I mainly just watch like code. I just watch code trans people, the roll for sandwich guy, and recently a guy that removes barnacles from crabs he fished up.
Yeah, right. And I think that's like a nice way to do it. I I don't do that because I am increasingly divorcing myself from my phone. Um, it's works. It's nice for me. I don't even. In the past month, I've decided like unless I receive a message, uh, I don't even check social media until I'm on my phone until I'm on my computer. It's been
I,
it's a thing that works for me because to some degree like the idea of like oh if you're an artist you have to you know always be active, always be online and present in order to whatever success means. uh,
yeah, but you're a wise person trying to stay off the internet. I will keep myself trapped on the internet because posting is forever.
it is it's a trap of it if it worked like slightly differently I think could do it, but there's there's the thing about where it's like I've said this on the show constantly. It's the equivalent of like all your friends. When like you're hanging out and someone is talking about something because they want you to ask them about it, uh, but like not saying it directly. That feels like what all posting is, and
Yeah,
I'm just like just asking about it. It just does not work. Also, people. I think the last thing I saw when I was like, "This is enough for me," was someone was posting about like going out and like the songs they had fun with doing at karaoke, and then like the second like an attached post in a thread was like, "Oh, by the way, I wasn't hogging a thing. This was in a private room with friends," and I'm like, why would you need that clarification? Who cares? like, like, like it was so. I assume because there is the fear that somebody would be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you spent all night hogging a karaoke machine and didn't let other people do it. You're so selfish." And maybe the word privilege would exist somewhere in that scolding. And I'm like, who's the person that logs on and responds like that? And I simply do not need those kind of people to exist in my life.
yeah, yeah. Those are posters I don't like.
It's such a.
But I mean, there are way worse posters. Like 2/3 of Twitter now,
You're right.
where
Yes.
X
Yes.
everything,
Yes. There were the worst
X
posters.
everything at Blaze Your Glory.
Right. Right. There were the posters who were just like, irredeemable human beings that exist that also post. Um, and then there's like a person who is probably mostly fine, but like is the worst poster you've ever met in your entire life, the most intolerable version of themselves. But it's
Yeah,
it's
like
it's
oh my god, Twitter's a wasteland now.
I actually uninstalled it from my phone like the other day because I realized I'm like I also like put them in their own group and put them on a little page by themselves and not on my home screen at all. Like I quarantined them so just to quit cold turkey. Because if I can do that, I'm very good. It's weird that if I like try to wean myself off of something, I can't do it. But if I just like quit outright, it just works. Uh, uh, but I uninstalled them. Like I don't need it anymore. I stopped posting on it months ago. And the last people who I had like messaged through there, in regards to Indiepocalypse, I am like, I don't want to say I'm done with them, but I found I now have other avenues to communicate with them. But I did get
Yeah,
an
I occasionally go there because there's a few people that haven't hopped off to like Blue Sky or anything,
right.
and I'm there for 5 minutes, and I just feel myself becoming a worse person in within all that.
Yeah, I cannot imagine what it's like nowadays. It, like
Oh, it's terrible.
like the nice thing about Twitter that I think all the other sites lack, and maybe Blue Sky will get there, is that everyone was on it, but I feel like nobody liked it. So you could like it's like which makes it a great place for promo because it doesn't feel like you're just walking to someone's house and advertising all the time. Uh, but with like Mastodon servers or other little micro sites that pop up here and there, it feels like more. Oh, I'm just coming up to advertise my thing, and we're in a place where people are hanging out. But hopefully it'll get there. Blue Sky, that is. Though I get followed by a
Yeah.
lot of hashtag resist people. I think they just follow everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the at worst are kind of annoying, but they're way better than people on Twitter nowadays.
Yes, yes, and they don't actually reply or anything to me, but it's just like I'm like, who is this Because I'm very used to, being like very much the artist space, you know. So like everyone I follow is somebody I want to look at and see what they're doing. So I have the instinct to I still have that habit of checking somebody and like, oh, who are they? What do they do? Uh, and then what they do is they're like, proud DA dad in Georgia, never this, and it's like, oh, okay, you follow 20,000 people. What are you doing? Uh, but anyhow, speaking of nope, don't have it. There's no transition there. Hey, I've got a couple questions for you, Larry. These
Ooh, yeah.
eternal Indiepocalypse questions.
Okay, let's hear it.
I skipped the first one, which is how you hear it because I emailed you. I do want to say, one of the extreme helps very early on, like in probably year one of the project, of like, giving me space to talk about it, which I think that first year, like, I think gave it like the base of like developers knowing about it to basically sustain it forever,
Yeah.
which was very helpful. Like Infinite, I think about those a lot. That's it. I am both. I'm very bad at being sincere, and vulnerable with people and open, but it's like anyway. I just wanted to thank you.
Uh, you're welcome. I, I understand the whole thing about being open and vulnerable like that.
Yes.
If I'm gonna be vulnerable, it'll be through OCs.
Yes. Right. Right. That's what art exists for. um,
Yes.
to be the reflection of myself into something else. But to the other questions, what's your favorite type of rock?
Hmm. What is my favorite? I guess indie rock.
Okay.
I like indie rock.
I also enjoy. I was reading the other day, not to get too into. I was reading your thing on Knife Man the other day, and
Yes.
which I found I think I got into that very recently, simply because somebody posted something, that opening line from Skate Park, because I really I really enjoy, very I mean the fun of a lot of like exceptionally written tunes on that, and lyrics on that song, on that album in general. Uh, but not to get too far down that tangent.
Oh,
I know. I mean, there will be time. I have downloaded Fubar on my phone. I am going back to having local copies of music on my phone. I've reverted 20 years in the past. But to say,
I've been
yeah, go
I've
ahead.
been I've been collecting CDs so that I can break my dependence on Spotify.
Yes. Now I have thought very recently about like, oh, I should go to the Savers and just like get a bunch of CDs. I mean, to not to date myself a little, I have a lot of CDs from driving to college, and that being the thing that played in my car. Um, so I have like a little binder full, but I also it's like, to I am basically me remembering to do it away from me finally, removing and unsubscribing from that convenience of Spotify. Because I'm like, oh, I really don't need it. I can just buy them as they go along. But I was also like, I don't want to rebuy this thing. These things I know that I owed but like that Bandcamp doesn't have. But who knows? So I'll say I love to talk about music, and I get very excited when people answer that rock question in a music standpoint. But the second question.
Okay.
Now this one does not require an answer of any kind. I mean, it requires some answer, but not. You do not have to answer the question if it does not have an answer for you, which is, who is your favorite Toho character? Or no, do you have? I forgot. It's do you have a favorite Toho character?
I've actually never played Toho, even though my partner's group is super into Toho. I've just never really found time to get into it.
Yeah.
I tried playing some of Embodiment of the Scarlet Devil, but who would I say this with? Yeah, the lady that throws knives and stops time like Dio. I'll just go with her.
Yes, of course. Of course, as we all know, Sakia of the titular Scarlet Devil mention. And honestly, when people go, how do I get into Toho? Or I like Toho's cool, but I do not like bullet hells. That Sakia starring game, Moonlit. What is that game? Is it Moonlight? I always forget what it's called. Because I think I conflate them with the name of the studio.
Mopedora?
No. I think I am getting all over. The hell is that game? It's the quote unquote Metroidvania, but not really, because it's more like a level based game. Luna Knights, that's what it was. But anyway, not to get too sidetracked. That's a good kind of, if you're like, hey, what are these cool things? And it's I was combining Luna Knights with Ladybug. All these things were swirling around in my brain, and I could not remember the thing, but I remember that I found it. Anyway, Dari, thank you for joining me here today. That those questions are the sign of the end of our segment. We're very glad to have you. We are going to be.
Nice. Cool being here.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of people who just like exist in the periphery of my brain for a long time, but also because I am the anti-poster, I do not get to really like talk and interact with them a lot. So I love when people are like, hey, I'd love to be on, or I will be on the show. It's just fun to hang out, So thank you. We are going to be on break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Goodbye until then. Hello and welcome to back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Seisumi with their cover of "Honk If You're Lonely," which is that plus, of course, the iNako demo at the top of the show are evidence that hey, the summertime's here, the springtime's here, up in chilly New England, and I'm living my good life of like, oh, I can wear a t-shirt soon when it's going to be like 50, 60 degrees. But when you're living in the frigidity, you're like, 50, that's a godsend. Speaking of godsend, we got plenty of guests here, and we've got our next guest here, who from way back at issue 28 of Indiepocalypse with Give Me Strength. I think I almost accidentally said this first segment, but also working on other things like the if you've seen in person Wee Boats, maybe. James Poole. James, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, and the chance of anyone seeing Wee Boats is next to none. I can, but onwards and upwards.
Yes, I do see it. I've seen pictures of it because I'm like, oh, look at it. It's on a little boat.
Yeah, and it's like I suppose, and I haven't been. We've been working on it for a while, and I haven't been talking about it much. And now, like, okay, we're getting close to finishing it. I suppose we should start talking about it. And now, over the next couple of months, we're hoping to bring that wheel around with us to different places. Like, we're hoping to bring it to Berlin, to a maze, so people can play with it a bit, for example. And
yes.
It makes people happy, I think, when they see, oh, look, a wheel.
Are we talking Amaze Berlin 2025 or 2026?
25. So as in in about
like 3
weeks, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward. You're going to be there. I'm looking forward to seeing you. I'm looking so forward to seeing the Indiepocalypse booth in person.
It's going to be a very small version that can fit inside of my luggage.
Yeah, and that's also, I'm trying to deal with that conundrum with the wheel, because the wheel is huge. And for context, so Wee Boats is like a small game about where you just chill out as a little boat.
Yeah.
And there's there's no objectives really. You can just go explore and stuff. And then the wheel that we made is like made out of kind of cardboard boxes and papier mâché, and then some like sensors and stuff inside to do the controlling. But we have these ridiculous cardboard boxes that somehow need to fit into a suitcase.
Right.
So we're also maybe wondering about, should we make a smaller version of this thing? Are we going to be
or a collapsible version of it?
Yeah, and it was just a lot of work to put just the ones that we have together. So
right.
I wonder about a smaller, but a collapsible one would be great. It would make life easier. And
yes.
There's also a battery on it that kind of has maybe about a day of battery on it. So it means that we always kind of have to hover around it, or you can't kind of leave it alone.
Right, because you can't just
you have to kind of like unplug the battery, and you have to go bring it home and kind of recharge it, and then make sure you're early out the next day.
Right, it can't be like a thing. You know, if you think of like a MagFest, which is like 24 hours, and a lot of times people put their setups up and just leave them there. You know, in the arcade section.
Yeah, and we can do that for a certain while, but then there comes a point where we need to go affect the battery. And that's just, I won't get into the technicalities of it, but it's like we wanted to be able to spin 360.
Yeah.
Because when people come up to it, they just like.
Right.
They just want to spin it.
Right. That's almost like the first thing you want to do with that's like That's one of the main things that boat wheels do is they spin all the way around.
Exactly. So you want to be able to do that. So then we ended up having to make the wheel kind of like a wireless thing.
You're right.
And then since it's wireless, then it needs to get power from something. Um, but I might try and figure out a better way. But at the moment, it's like a phone battery pack that we put on the inside of it, and that keeps us going.
Right, because having it not spin would be, the worst experience you could have. It's like that's like, oh right, I kind of crank it and then it stops, and then at that point it's just a regular steering wheel, and we've got plenty of those in cars.
And yeah, the first version we made of it was actually kind of like that.
Yeah.
That you need to point one part of it upwards, and then you kind of need to slightly turn it left or slightly turn it right. And we just thought that was that would be fine. But then, of course, the people then just started spinning it, and we're like, no, don't do that. That's not how it works.
Right.
So then we had to make a version 2.
Yes. Right. The essential. It's the thing about like alt controllers, is that you kind of get a sense of how people are going to operate with them, but you never quite fully know how people, like, it's not like a controller, where you've got your set amount of buttons that people are going to use. They're unlikely to start like, grab it by the cord and like helicopter it over their head, because that's not what they do with controllers,
Yeah.
Generally, I mean.
No, I'm absolutely with you. And yeah, sorry for launching in first thing about the wheel, but
No, go ahead. The wheel is an important part. I think I'm looking forward to getting hands on the wheel.
And it also kind of, when we kind of brought it out to show people, a couple of kind of unexpected things happened in a way, or like it was like I had a couple of realizations that people would kind of, they'd kind of go to, if you're at an exhibition or some kind of game festival,
right,
and you're looking at a whole load of different kind of game booth setups, and some of them have kind of controllers or keyboard and mouse and stuff. I find a lot of times, and especially myself, I'm kind of almost scared of going up to them, because I'm like, oh God, I'm going to need to learn buttons. What are the controls right now? And
right.
Conferences can often be quite stressful, and there's lots of people around, and it's not really a zone for stopping and, okay, let me learn what the controls are for this game, and also enjoy the game.
Right.
But when it was just a wheel, people could just walk up and go, "Oh yeah, I know how this works," and
right.
then they didn't need to think about it.
Right. I just need to spin it, and spinning it's going to do something.
And I think that brought in a lot of people who who would normally maybe kind of shy away from the game, and I that was a nice kind of realization of like, oh cool, there's an accessibility or a approachability angle of this as well.
Yeah, have you brought it to any like what kind of events have you brought it to? Or like
so far it's very early days, and we brought the first version to an open, like a 2-hour kind of demo at a maze last year.
Right.
And then there was like an open source art festival exhibition in Norway last November, and we brought it to that, and then that was like a 3-day thing where there were a couple of games, but games were just like a small part of this overall kind of open source art thing. So we had it at that. So then there was a lot of people who wouldn't kind of regard themselves as gamers coming to this event and having a nice time with it. So that was neat.
Yeah, that was
so far.
That was, you kind of led yourself right into the question I was thinking about. Was like what is like for people who are like, you take for granted that controllers are extremely complicated. You
Yeah,
know, the expectation
absolutely.
that the modern controller has what, like 16, 20 buttons on it, and then two
Yeah.
sticks.
Or if you even look at a keyboard and
Oh
kind of
yes,
like,
that's got at least 30. That's got at least 36 of those things on there,
there's a
almost
million
guaranteed.
buttons on that thing. Yeah.
And then all those
um,
symbols.
and then a lot of us have kind of inbuilt kind of notions as to how a game should work, or like your hand might gravitate to a WASD or something.
Right, right.
But I'd I'd say we're in the very much minority of like overall people who would know those kind of things. Well, maybe not. I don't know. But
Right. It is
there's
like
some kind of thought around
increasingly
there.
uh, coming to like more normalized and more people are growing. I think more we are approaching. I've been thinking about this for years, and I think perhaps um, maybe in another 5 or 10, uh, we'll reach the point where like people like games are just like another medium, uh,
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
it feels like of course I'm sure there are people who tell you I don't watch movies, uh, but games feel often like the most common I don't do that one. uh,
Yeah, and I think that's awful sad. And I'm trying to figure out how to kind of, oh, it's a huge task, but like, how
right.
can we combat that in small ways? And it's the problem is at so many different levels. It's like, it could be the distribution, like, or it could be the controls, or it could be just the fact that the game kind of makes you think a little bit as opposed to just sit back on the couch. Um,
Right.
uh, there's a couple, there's challenges at all points, but I think maybe distribution and something around that is probably uh, or like, oh, what computer do I have? Is this compatible? Oh, all of these kind of little roadblocks that would put people off.
Right. A thing that is still weird about games is that we have like three different companies making boxes that play games, and there's four of them if you count PCs, and like there are different. There generationally there are different things, but like in each generation, there's generally like, uh, you know, there's occasionally like HD DVD versus Blu-ray, but usually that doesn't last very long, and then you just like the player plays them. Like you don't have to worry about did I get a Sony Blu-ray player or did I get a Nintendo Blu-ray player?
Yeah,
Which one is my movie compatible with?
and I feel like I'm thinking about it takes up a whole load of my brain thinking about like, okay, what kind of tools should I be using to make the games
Right.
with that kind of angle of like what'll be the thing that if I write it in now, it'll be playable in 10 or 20 years' time
Right.
and on different platforms. And will people be able to open it up on their phone and kind of just get into it? Or, oh, yeah, there's so many things around there that it's just a big mess.
Right. Because
And I don't want to think about it. I want to actually think about like what's an interesting game to make, but then I end up thinking about everything around it.
right. Because games like they don't have the same easily portable like source format. You
Mm,
know. If you go all the way back to text. If you got text, people that it was laborious, but go back pre-printing press, you could just write another version of it um, by hand, and
yeah.
and
Oh, I have a random thought there. Have you ever? There's the artist who he died a couple of years ago called Daniel Johnston.
okay,
He
yeah,
he was kind of like in maybe in the 80s and 90s, kind of making this strange punk music, but also like, well, no, he would kind of sit down at his piano and just kind of bang out these songs that on the surface felt like very childish or kind of like singing about I am walking the cow, but uh, he originally made his tapes by I think he couldn't copy the tapes, so his way of distributing his album was like just to re-record his tapes over and over and over again, like live.
Right.
Every tape was different.
Yeah, and that is another person who I am, or maybe I was. That's the beauty of music, and also art in general. Is there's infinite stuff that you're like, oh wait, I never got around to that, and that is a name that exists in my brain. And I'm like, oh wait, did I ever? I don't think I've actually, and that's this might be uh, my instinct to be like, huh, maybe I should really dive into this discography.
I think it's massive, but you can get an idea, I think.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, I love massive
but
discographies though.
but the yeah, and kind of on a similar note, you've kind of gone in the tape direction as well with the. I feel like when we spoke last, you were at a point where you were like, oh, I wonder what a physical Indiepocalypse could look like.
I could
Um,
I could have said
and
that.
that's probably like that's a while ago now.
Yes, that
I
was
think it might
probably
be like 4 years ago. Or something.
that's probably closer to release of your issue. So it's around 28. We're on to 64 next week. So that's a little over 2 years, give or take, around 2 years.
Okay, that's not so many. I
No,
was
no,
thinking
that's
more.
that's
Yeah,
very. It's, oh no, wait, I'm doing bad math. That was the difference between to get from 28 to 64 is a lot more years than I just said they were. That's 36 years or 36 months. No, I was right. Yes, I was right. Never mind. No, I'm not. Well, no, I'm not. What am I doing? I'm doing. This is why you
don't
don't do
out our
math while you're
bad
talking. I
mental
was
math.
right. It was
Yeah,
36.
yes.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah. So
stick
it's
with
3 years, give or take.
Yeah, but the I think it's a great idea now to have the tapes and the memory stick,
Yeah.
and I you sent one out to me, and then I tried it in my computer, and it worked, and there was different ones for different platforms, or the different folders for different platforms. It was all great. Um,
And I mean that is it's a thing that allows me to like it's the reason I can go to a maze. Uh, you know, I would not
yeah,
I would not be able to go to a maze if I did not have a thing to sell at a maze to make my money back from traveling there, or
yeah,
at least make my money back in the moment.
and it's not cheap to be flying. I'd say, especially from America.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and I think that's Amaze is like the only kind of game festival thing of this kind
Right. Right.
for our kind of games that I would be going to, or that I've gone to previously, because I haven't gone over to America yet for something like that.
I don't think
Um,
that I'm not sure if there is in the same kind of way necessarily. Um, I I just was describing to someone who was like, because I was talking at work as they were aware of PAX, and I said I was talking about having to go to Berlin afterwards, and I described it as like, and I'm like where PAX is, I guess, kind of more like a trade show. Amaze I describe it as like a film festival more, if as like the
yeah,
simplest way to describe
absolutely.
it.
I think and it's also kind of, um, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward for you to see it for the first time as well, because it's quite a, um, it can be a very tiring physically thing, but I also come away from it very energized creatively, or like you talk to a lot of great people, you see a lot of great things, and kind of people going against the grain when it comes
Right.
to games, and it just kind of makes you go like, yeah, there, this is worth it, like. So I think it's great, and also it's a small enough amount of people that will be at it. Um, so then, kind of over the 3 days or however many days,
Right.
you kind of you kind of just like bump into the same people, and you kind of form a bit of a bond with this gang of people who are around you, and people aren't like trying to network really. They're just
Right.
kind of chilling out and hanging out, and you kind of bump into random people and it's like, oh cool, what are you up to? That's
Yes.
always fun.
No, I have the luxury of also, knowing a lot of people vaguely, you know.
Yeah,
So it's a benefit of like going, hey, I get to actually meet all these people in person now
yeah,
and hang out instead of the triannual, not triannual, the every 3 year, however, whatever that version of it is, radio show I have with people, you know.
yeah, exactly. but
Uh,
um but yeah, is PAX like, or if I was to go to something in America, what would you recommend? Or what would
I
be
don't
the kind
know.
of one that
Uh, I wouldn't.
you would? Yeah, okay.
um, I don't know if they're like. The thing is, like, it's just so freaking expensive to get here, and then it's expensive to be
True.
here.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I am of the mind that I don't recommend people go to any convention unless they're selling a thing. I say we kill the idea of game shows as preview events. Uh, it's super weird, and like
Yeah.
really is like really kind of self-selects the kind of people who can show up at events, of to be people who have money,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which skews towards commercial products, which skews towards a lot of things, and you get less of an indie show vibe, and also like lacking that kind of thing. It lacks the people, like the expectation that people will go there to buy something, which is what you need in order to go there to sell things in order to be able to afford trips.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think maybe a year or two ago, I was at a maze, and then right afterwards, I went to a different event with work, which was separate to what I would do, and that was like a game industry event,
Right.
it, and it was like absolute whiplash because I went from the coolest, most wholesome event going, and then you go right into this like industry land, and it was hell. Like you're just met with kind of Amazon booths and uh, just different ad companies. It's basically all ad companies.
Right. Right.
And no one. I'm like looking around. It's this huge game industry event, and I'm looking around like, who's actually making any games here? No one. There's no one.
Yeah, I mean that's
um,
it's very easy to divorce the creators from like the marketing, and that just be what events are, or people just it's a whole ordeal. Uh, and there's not, I think there's like not enough like uh, indie shows in the way that I think of indie shows as indie shows, that
yeah,
have like uh, weird alternative, however you want to phrase those kinds of games, you know. In the same way,
yeah.
it's because I think a lot about, and this is not going to be, you know what? Before we get too sidetracked and down conversations, James,
Of
I've
course.
got a couple of
Yes.
questions for you as I'm looking at the little number next to that red dot there. Um, you've had time to prepare. What's your favorite type of rock?
Yeah. Okay. So, um,
I don't remember if I
I
don't remember if these questions existed 3 years ago.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So I'm not too sure. Which I've got two potential directions that are okay.
Yes.
Which would you like to go down? There's
What
one that's like
I will
a
take whatever
song.
path you want to go down.
There's a song, or there's like a folklore a folklore direction.
I will take the whatever path you choose to go down. You know what? Can I have them both? Can
Okay.
I be greedy?
I don't know. I don't know. Can we talk about rock so long? But the one that I came across recently was in so I'm from Ireland,
Yeah.
and the like, there's a tradition of rock lifting in Ireland, apparently, that
Okay.
like people, it kind of got lost somewhere in the this is thousands of years old,
Yeah.
and and we've kind of only discovered now again that, oh, whoa, like thousands of years ago people used to lift rocks for fun as like entertainment, and now they're kind of learning about this again and learning about Irish culture and folklore through this thing, and people are kind of passing down. People would have stories of it and other things just in families because no one ever wrote it down, but have kind
Right.
of passed it down by orally. And there's still some of those rocks that will be in the old stories are still like present in the land. So that I came across that in like the last week or two. So that comes to mind when you say it actually doesn't answer your question at all. Um, but
It kind of
maybe
does.
one of the rocks maybe that still exists that can be the my favorite
One of those.
rock.
One of those. I'm looking up lifting stones currently.
I just came
Yeah.
across it. I think in a different podcast,
Yeah.
in some podcast, and they were talking about. And there's one fella in particular. I can't remember his name, and he's like really championing this kind of learning about old Ireland and
Yeah.
through the medium of rock.
According to Wikipedia, stone lifting in Ireland has experienced a modern revival. I, I, wo- I wonder if it is because they are like in the grand scheme of the world, geographically close to each other. I wonder how close, if it has any kind of ancient relation to like caber toss. How old is caber toss?
And where would that be from?
That's
Oh,
from
whoa! I
Scotland.
haven't thought about it. It is, isn't it? I would say that it is pretty related. I haven't thought about that since like I think I saw that in a cartoon when I was a kid.
Without me
Wow.
doing any reasonable amount of research, I'm just thinking of people picking up heavy ass stuff and
For entertainment.
right, exactly. Uh,
But that's a very good reference point, and I'd say that's like because often there's like traditional things here that would be kind of slightly different in different islands around the place,
right, right.
and it all just kind of skewed slightly depending on what the geography was or something like that.
Right, and so much of the stuff is old oral history.
Mm.
That we don't have like written records of all this stuff. The
So
the
there you go. That's a stone.
no, I love learning about new stones, and this is a crucial new stone for me to have learned. Uh,
Can I ask you what the origin of the stone question was?
a soul, a friend of the show and past contributor, would constantly ask, "What's your favorite type of rock?" in the questions. My Google form questions, and I just eventually, I liked it so much, I kept it. It's a good
Yeah,
it's a good broad question. It's one of those kind of like subtle, revealing, but not too revealing sorts of questions you can ask about a person.
hmm, yeah, yeah. I'm with you. Cool.
I very much enjoy revealing questions that do not like actually need to tell you anything about a person's personal life. You know, and it's the art of it. Where art reflects itself, the rock reflects the self. Uh,
Yeah, and your rock story can reveal personal things
right.
if it wants to.
Now I'm looking at David. Now I'm like, oh wait, how do I pronounce this? It's not Keo. Okay, what is this? Keohan. Keen.
Okay, can you spell it one more time?
Keohan.
That sounds like Kyon.
Keon. Okay. I see. I never know with those.
Oh yeah, that's him. That's the
Yes,
guy.
that
That's
is.
him. Indiana Stones.
Yes, it's the guy. He's picking up these rocks. But speaking of old ancient traditions, do you have a favorite Toho character?
Oh, and this is where I fall apart.
Well, I mean
Because
that's why it's a do because you can just tell me no.
yeah, my answer is going to be no. But I hear this question in other episodes, and every time I think, oh, I really should look up what that is.
I recommend Toho is very cool. I'd recommend it. Like just the broad concept of Toho. Um, there's a lot of cool stuff in it, you know. Just like
And it sounds like a vast thing. I can get my head around a bullet hell. Like that feels like that's something I can wrap my little head around.
right,
Um, but the vastness, I,
right, because there's
I don't know. I don't even know where to begin.
the whole like not open source but like open license of it all, you know, in general. That general openness
Hmm.
of like, hey, anyone can go out and make a Toho game kind of thing, you know.
Oh, really? Okay.
Within like some limited criteria, but like that game I mentioned earlier, Luna Knights, is not made by Jun, Sir Toho. You know, that's just a different team, a completely different
Hmm.
people made that. It's also, you know, if you ever want to play a bunch of rhythm games, like rhythm arcade games, just make sure you learn Bad Apple because it's on all of them.
Oh, heck yeah.
Because it is not. It's kind of like the license agnostic. Like it's not a Sega or a Namco song or whatever. It's just is what it is. So I assume that they all just license it. But James, thanks for joining. We're gonna go on break
Cool.
for about
I'm
2
ready.
minutes and 54 seconds. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Hello and welcome
Hi.
again back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Jeff Rosenstock with Festival Song. A big part of me transition, like getting a big we're back of course with the whole crew here. Darian and James are both here. Hello everyone.
Hello, hello.
Howdy.
Uh, was me going like, I have that whole full quote unquote discography, but I do not want to repurchase it all. And then Bandcamp was getting mad at me because I was listening to Scrambles more than once. It's like, you know that thing it does where it's like, open your heart and pay them. And I'm like, I already did. But like not on your platform. And I've also found like, I'm a full album person. Like I do not listen to playlists or like shuffles or anything. I'm
Hmm.
like strictly front to back kind of person, and streaming turns out even like downloading, like you know how they have like the download option. I feel like it must still be hitting something through the apps because I'm like for the first time like wow these songs like actually transition to into each other like cleanly for the first time in 10 years. What have I been missing?
After you download it.
Yeah, after it's just me dragging my local MP3s over to an SD card on my phone
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
and playing it through Fubar mobile version. I'm like, it just works. Like it's not like there's no like awkward gaps or that problem where it's like you try to set a crossfade, but it crossfades too much, and it's a pain.
I really want to find my old like MP3 players with
Uh,
them with like the kind of 100 megabytes or 500 megabytes of storage and see what was on them.
I,
That'd be a good gold dig.
I still know where mine is. I have an old giant iPod. That was old when iPod like back around when iPhones came out. I was like, yeah, time to get an iPod. Um, being
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't remember ever having an MP3 player. I think we had like I think it was called the Zune.
Yeah.
But didn't really get into listening to music a lot until like a few years ago.
Yeah, it was me commuting to college. That was the main thing because I was like, I'm not living on campus. That costs like so much goddamn money. I was in and out of that as like I did that as like cheaply as possible. It was like state school. I did in 3 years. I commuted. Uh, and it's probably the only reason it only took me 10 years to pay it all off. Uh,
Oh, I've just looked up the Zune. I think I might have seen like one or two of these, but they, they weren't. Oh yeah, cool.
and the thing
Those
is,
are the days.
and now here's the question: is are they? Can you still get one? And are they expensive or cheap?
I don't know. I'm just on the Wikipedia, and I'm not sure if I can buy anything from Wikipedia.
No, not yet. Maybe if when Jimmy's like, please give us money. If we all say no, then Wikipedia will turn to a fandom.com like everybody like fandom.com will take over Wikipedia as well, and then the internet will truly die.
I keep getting. It's like it's funny how accurate on the year. I get an email from Jimmy Wales, and it'll. Oh, what does he say? He'll be like, I can't remember, but it's funny how it's clearly a timed yearly email, and he'll
Right.
be like, I'm just reaching out. Come on, can.
For only
Oh
three
yeah, no, he'll say
dollars.
yeah. My final email. I just searched it there. His the subject the
If I
subject
email goodbye.
Oh
yeah
no.
the subject line is my final email, but I've gotten this email maybe 4 times every year. Oh yeah,
I
Jimmy.
I usually when that little banner pops up, a lot of times I'm like, you know what? Half my $3 because I do use Wikipedia is man. It like fandom shows you how bad it could be.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and we should support these things.
like
It's just Jimmy can be a bit much sometimes.
like my encyclopedia does not need news articles. I do not need content on like an encyclopedia. Like the
Um,
contentification of every part of the internet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can I throw a random question to you, Derry? I'm
Oh
just wondering
sure.
about like the um. You've been on. I've only come across your work over the last couple of days because of the podcast, but you have a lot of stuff on itch, and then you also have the things on Steam. Um, I'm trying my first time to deal with to like wrestle with Steam, with the upcoming game. Um, and I'm just wondering how you've gotten on with kind of like alternative games on Steam. What's the process been like, or does
Uh,
it? Yeah,
um, I'm not really sure how to speak on the process. I mean, you're just uploading game to different sites, right? Uh, I don't remember if there's anything more specific to do with that. Uh,
yeah. I suppose like just kind of maybe I don't know. I feel like on itch.io the barrier is lower in a way, or you can kind of
oh,
share anything, and then kind of Steam requires more maybe of you, or
oh,
a certain quality
oh.
level maybe, or I'm not sure.
Well, all I ask for you is $100 to pay in. But otherwise, yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, and audience wise, do you feel like it attracts a different audience, or do you get a similar audience on the two platforms? Maybe.
Uh, oh, from some of my reviews, it's sort of like a little bit of both. Like some people coming over from the itch side, and there's clearly like some people that normally would never play my things.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
yeah. It's. I feel like it's been taking a lot of like mental energy for me for some reason. I can't really put my finger on it. Just going through like the different review processes of Steam, or like um kind of like setting up where the bank stuff is, and the tax information and all of these things.
Oh yeah, financials. Yeah, I guess that's like the big problem. Yeah,
But maybe once you're
it's
over
there.
that, then you're done. You're away then. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to figure it out and see, and you have to kind of play the wish list game
Right.
and all of that
Oh
kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Honestly, I've failed at the wish list game, so I have no advice for you there.
Uh,
No, I think I'm just going to send it out. Give it a couple of months, coming soon, and then send it out into the world. Just there's no point worrying too much about this kind of wish list stuff.
yeah, it's weird because it's like I wonder how much life the wish list has in it, you know. Uh, because it feels like the natural progression of everything that's like a technique, you know. They're like, "Oh yeah, here's the way to get your thing. Here's a secret hack to get your stuff noticed." And then once you do that, what's to stop big companies with giant budgets from doing exactly that, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh yeah, I worked hard on my grassroots wish list campaign," and then someone also is spending $10,000 on their wish list campaign.
yeah. It's a big fight. It's a big brawl, and we're there as tiny little pipsqueaks, and and you're playing in the same game as huge companies like Oblivion remake coming out. And it's like, oh, okay.
Right. I think that's where it's kind of like it's the cursed thing to tell indies is like, hey, just wait 10 years and you'll be wait, wait for the long tail wait for people to catch up to you or something. And it's like, I don't have 10 years to wait.
But I suppose, as you said, kind of when it's just like oh, when it's your hobby, and kind of when you're just doing it because
Right.
you love it, then we're just going to do it anyway, and let it tick on in the background itself. We're going to keep
Right.
doing our bits.
Yeah, I think it's it's like that weird mix of like grind culture and the crushing desire to not live under the boot of capitalism combined to be like,
Yeah,
everything I have to do, I want to be my job, so I don't have to do this thing that I do anymore.
yeah. The
Yeah.
the the thing that I've been this Wii Boats game, like it's been almost 4 years or something since the last game I put out,
Right.
and this game that I'm about to put out is like small and silly, and is just for fun, really. Um, but I'm trying to do my best to just like work on it slowly and just have fun with it, which means it's taking more time. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to like keep in my head like this. There is no rush. There is no one rushing, and I can just take my time.
Right.
Um, which is really hard because I want to work on about 10 different other projects at the same time. So then the grind comes just out of myself just wanting to do other things. But it's all a balance.
Yeah, and I think that's part of something that is, I think, sort of slowly going away is the expectation of game length, especially like there being like a minimum of it.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. And that's maybe also kind of a thing that I'm scared about of putting the game on Steam. That if I put a game on Steam and put it like even a $3 price tag on it, I feel like I'm opening myself up to this really angry audience maybe who want long games. Whereas if I put the same thing on itch, I think people would be more like chill about it. And I could be completely wrong. People might be still chill on Steam. This is just my kind of fear.
I think it's a thing. There's definitely people who lack chill on Steam. And I feel like it's just kind of like, it's one of those, it just takes time, just all time for culture to shift.
Yeah, and I think as long as I'm going to just be upfront about this game takes about 30 minutes to play. It's a short game. If that makes you mad, don't get it, please.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like having short games on Steam is like sort of a scary thing because people could just like refund it if it's like below 2 hour playtime. So
yeah, exactly.
Even if they like it.
I have no respect for those kinds of people.
Yeah, it's the kind of like a consumption of like, oh, I gotta consume everything or something. That kind of I don't know how to think of it. I think a lot of the idea of like that like pervades game. I mean, it pervades a lot of art, but the idea of like collection over like, I don't want to say consumption because I don't like that word to describe it, but whatever word that doesn't feel scummy, that is experiencing the art in its totality. Like people collecting a lot of stuff and then like, oh, I haven't played any of these. I will occasionally watch a lot of people's like comic collection videos, and so many times they're like, oh, I haven't read this, I bought this series, haven't read it yet. I'm like, why are you buying them then? What are you doing?
And even like, or also kind of, if somebody buys a game and plays it for 30 minutes and finishes it, and then even if like they had an okay time or enjoys it, and then they would refund it because they can. Right. It's just kind of like I don't know. We put years into this thing. Respect us, please.
A lot of that.
Yeah.
I really don't think Steam's welcoming towards short games.
No. It is like a very like straight ahead like market. Like it is the mainstream marketplace,
Marketplace of ideas.
The beautiful market. I think some of it is really like, I'm gonna keep yelling about this until something about it changes. But like, just our language around games is bad. Like, imagine if like the video format that we have that exists. It's usually audio and visuals combined together with moving images to create something.
Yes.
Imagine if for like 50 years TV shows were the only way they made it. These things that were like multiple seasons and hours long, 20, 60 hours long, and then somebody made a movie. And then people started making movies. These things that are only 2 hours long? Huh. Why would they make those? Why would I pay 2 hours for this thing when I could, this one has 60 hours. It's way longer. And that's like where games are, in that we don't have words like for the medium of interactive art. It only has one word of video games to describe it all. When a lot of them like don't fit into that same category.
There's the game poem angle,
right,
that has been coming up recently. There's the game poem zine, which is actually kind of like a similar to Indiepocalypse thing. I like that kind of a thing, because it's at least trying to put a little bit of a framing around a shorter thing.
Yes, I mean, if people, I don't know if they're, I don't remember if it's still open. People should. I mentioned it. I didn't want to like do a full blast of it to like my emails, because I don't want to overwhelm them with potentially like even half of the Indiepocalypse contributors is like 300 people, because a certain Indiepocalypse organizer is on the advisory board of that.
Fantastic! Yeah, and through a big kind of random chance, the fella organizing it, Jordan, is in like the same area as me at the moment, so I've gotten to meet him a little bit, and it's been interesting hearing about the project. So it's been great to see that, and that makes me hyped, and that's also kind of wanting to make these kind of things that I'm like wrestling my time to be like, finish reboots, but also I want to make little things.
I think I started this like 5 years ago. I was like, in theory, other people with way more resources and more connections, like say the founder of TigSource, would be like, this seems like a good idea. What if I did one of these? And that, we would be in an age where there's like 7 or 10 of the, there would be more active that someone could submit to,
and I think it's great. I think that's great, and I think they're different. They're coming at it from different angles, and like it's only positive. I think it's like more little platforms to kind of lift things up and lift up little creators.
Right. I want there to be like, if people
exciting.
making short games, you think about like, I want there to be like a wide variety of like literary the quote unquote like literary journals and like things, whatever you call those things that one would submit a short story to, like whether it's different magazines or newspapers
and I can't think of the word.
Yes, I know.
But,
and I don't know how in 2025 how abundant they are, but it's a model that has existed in the past, and still exists.
And there's a couple. I follow a couple in Ireland, Andy, and I'm in Norway at the moment, and there's a couple here. There's a lot actually, I think, here. And it's a great, like, it might be kind of an annual thing or every twice a year.
But it's nice to have something that is like, you have a game and your current thing is you put it on itch and then go, okay, I put it on itch, or you put it on Steam and then you hope for the best, or you get online and do a bunch of self-promotion, or you have the good fortune of like, being within a scene or a community, and then, that kind of like naturally proliferates things to some degree.
Yeah.
But if you're not, it's kind of like, I just dump it on the internet and hope for the best.
Yeah, maybe a YouTuber will one day play it.
Right. And they'll be like, whoa, look at this indie game. It's so crazy. Oh my god. What was this dev smoking when they made it? You know what I mean?
And then Among Us was born.
There were that's mean. There were probably some YouTubers who have actual interesting takes on things, but they're not the most popular ones.
Oh,
They're
you'd
doing,
be
they're doing good
super
work.
lucky
Yeah.
if you got like a big YouTuber to look at your thing,
Right.
because I'd imagine like fear and hunger would have been really niche if it weren't for like that super eye patch wolf video.
Right. So much of that stuff just like proliferates, and that is, as far as people covering it, that's, I would say, a better version of it, along a video essayist, as opposed to like the kind of like gawking itch that kind of dives that sometimes will happen that aren't really engaging with the work on its own terms. But that's like, I don't know, the life of content creation. I have to send 2 emails and for PAX because I paid all this goddamn money for a booth, and it came with media list, so I have to also, which includes a media list and an influencer list. So I'm like, do I make a different email for influencers? Like, what do influencers like?
What's a media list?
It's
Is
a
that
list of
like
it's a bunch of emails for press and things like that.
and then you are going to send them emails?
Yes, I've got access to those, so presumably I'd be like, oh, check out this booth at PAX, I guess.
Oh, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, I thought about like, because I did that for approximately like 3 years, and I was using a thing that let me insert people's names. But at this time, I'm like, I'm just gonna slam those all into the BCC and not even think about it. Like I did the thing where I said people's names, and often, like, especially towards the beginning, I was very intentionally looking towards people who I think would care about it, and a lot of those people actually just replied to me and said, "Yes, I do." And they were mostly like, the indie hell zones and the criticals and the indie hives and the other smaller, the people who are actually looking at the smaller, more interesting works happening on itch and the internet at large, rather than try to like sandwich my way into like an IGN or something that who knows.
Yeah.
But whatever. The media coverage landscape is a whole other beast in and of itself. Of another, and then that's got it just as bad, I think, of you survive the longest by doing it as a hobby. Because or I guess you just quit and become press, or quit and become PR when you realize you need a job.
What's your kind of plan for the next couple of years or the next while with Indiepocalypse? Are you going to keep fighting the good fight? Do you feel like you need to change it up in any way, or how are you feeling?
I think it is like, the thing is, I think it is what it is. Yes, I got one of my friend of the show, P Thief. I got one of those streamers playing one of my games in their fucked up bad game stream. That is exactly what I was talking about. But it's also funny because P Thief Leonardo, of course, was a recipient of the tape, who is actually one of the top tape market performers with his 2-packs.
Nice.
So, like, it's one of those things where it's just like different audiences are just like drawn to different things, but broadly, like, I think Indiepocalypse is what, like, it is the perfect version of what it is. I think. I don't think there is like a better version of it that exists. like I've had people tell me before, like, oh, what if you did it less frequently, or like, oh, the commission games or the interesting things, what if you just did those? And I'm like, well, no, because like I think there's a lot of suggestions that make it like a better quote unquote product or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think as a thing that like, if I did it quarterly, or even like every other month, like how many, like I've never had games where I was like begrudgingly included them to fill out the slots,
Which is a great position to be in.
Yeah, but it also means like, if I did half of them in this year's, what games get cut, what games do people not potentially see through this? And it's like, I like it. I like I enjoy the volume of it. I think there's a benefit to having like an unmanageable library that's like semi-curated. Rather than
then it can be kind of like I love when I find websites that are kind of like they feel like an infinite kind of web of
right.
links that you can just kind of get lost in, and you can go down a rabbit hole and you're still in that website,
right?
Like some kind of personal website maybe. So
but
then if this Indiepocalypse is this thing you can kind of get into and get lost somewhere.
Because I think it does also still feel small enough to be completable, and I think it will always still feel small enough to be completable, and also I think that the tongue-in-cheek notion of the Indiepocalypse, of the idea that there's too many games, and I'm like, there's not too many games, or there never will be like too many games, because really what that says is,
take this.
Yeah, I mean I feel like the unsaid part of that of like is that they let the pores in, Steve, indie games used to be this nice thing that my companies could do because it was a walled garden of people that I knew and high fees. But now that anyone with $100 can submit a game to Steam, I can't succeed anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wait a minute. No, why can't you succeed anymore? Oh, it's because it's accessible to everybody now? Huh. Somehow that doesn't seem like a bad thing, that it's accessible to everybody.
Is this supposed to be Jonathan Blow?
I think that's a lot of people. Jonathan Blow is probably Jonathan Blow is probably the vanguard of that nice vanguard of that mentality by also being like an annoying person that sucks. It's easy just to pin it on him, but that's a lot of people. Yeah, Jonathan Blow. Oh, because very recently Braid's not on the front page anymore. It's like, buddy, Braid is fine, but like a lot of games are very good. And it's kind of like it's the fallacy of meritocracy of like actually most things are good enough, most people are quote unquote good enough for a job, I think most, like, if you think in terms of like jobs, most jobs have a skill ceiling that most people meet with ease, and then so it's the idea of best for the position is kind of like this made up excuse for you to pick the people that you like or that you know. But that's a very long roundabout way of saying, nah, Indiepocalypse is what it is, and I'm just gonna keep on making it.
But that makes me super happy, and I suppose it's as long as you're able, like, that's something that makes you hyped, and you're able to keep it up, and it's not too much work. You must have some like great workflow.
Yes,
manage all of the like. Organize all of the radio shows and organize all of the who's coming up in the next issues, and I'm really impressed.
I'm surprised by how much you do, man.
you know how I said earlier how I thrive under pressure? Like, it truly is like a strong motivating factor for me of like a deadline of shit that I need to get done. And like, and I just keep building onto it, like, how, let me look at the email. When did I email you about the Tape Club release that came out last week? It might've been like 6 months ago. I also just
yeah.
I also like try to get very ahead of things where I can. So that's another part. It was like, I commission all the commissions. I reach out. I do like 3 months ahead, 3 months before the issues release for both the covers and the games, which I think so since I'm doing issues a month in advance, I now do commissions like 4 months in advance. So like I'm not working on a strict like a hard pressure deadline for that because I'm always, doing it, like that far in advance of everything. Yeah, October of 2024 is when I emailed you about it. So
Yeah.
about half a year
Wow.
ago. So that's it. That's how I do it. That's my secret is, I do it all well in advance.
And you probably keep a really good Excel sheet or something.
I
like
do.
that.
Oh, you want? Well, technically, it's a open office calc sheet.
Brilliant. Yes.
But I can show you my very fancy sheet I use. Like I have a base sheet, and then it what's the word I'm looking? Proliferates all to each individual. So like I like music, I like comics, and let me tell you something, buddy. I like spreadsheets.
Yeah.
But basically, I have a single page that proliferates, like that I enter unpaid sales into. It calculates all the gross and all that stuff. The profit on everything. I've got 2 of them that are profitable. Three of them technically, I think. But one of them was Range Touch sponsored, which doesn't count in a weird for me because it was free. Quote unquote free.
That still counts.
It does. But to talk, I guess to actually answer it, the Tape Club is me going, Indiepocalypse is a well-oiled machine that's everything I want it to be. What do I do now? Now that I've made it too efficient, what do I do? And that is, what if these Indiepocalypse I'm selling physically? What if I sold other games physically as well? I'm like, I just need to have an open market, but what if I want to have like a curated little collection? That's kind of like, because a thing I realized recently, at like MagFest or something was like some event. It was like I realized I want to be like the bridge between like a general audience and like the alternative side of games that I like. And like events in like commerce is a cursed good way of doing that,
Mm-hmm.
Of like going to events and selling things, and people will buy like, I'll buy this thing I never heard of. I went to a zine fest, and people were like, yeah, I'll get this thing. And who knows like what their experience level with games is, and who knows if they would have ever found any of these games if they were just like on Steam or itch. But
it's slim.
Right.
Slim chance.
And I'll giving people like that game store equivalent. I think really opens up people to, because people I think are way more receptive to things outside the mainstream than like even they give themselves credit for. Like, I don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you're genetically born to like, alternative art. It's kind of a taste you acquire. And you can't acquire that without like running into it and experiencing it. and out there trying to.
And it's like, yeah, and sometimes it can be kind of hard to take on, but it also doesn't have to be. Like, it could be
Right.
something it feels like maybe on the surface super childish, and then is easily dismissed because it's super childish, but it's actually like, no, there might be there is like, but even childish is worthwhile in itself, just the playfulness of
Yeah.
something. So
Right.
it doesn't have to be hard to acquire, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It might not look like exactly kind of how you expect it to look, and then you might be like, oh, what's this?
Right. And then you eventually get like in too deep, and then you're like, it's fun when you get to that point where you kind of like lost perspective on like what you think is weird, um, and you have to keep chasing it further and further, and you're like, oh no, this is, what was weird 5 months ago, a few years ago might just seem like, oh, that's a fairly normal kind of thing, and then someone who's only takes like the if in terms of music, you're like, oh, someone only listens to pop music, pop radio, whatever it is of the day. Something that might be the most alien thing to them might just sound like normal pop radio to you if you were like have dove deep into the wild world of music.
Yeah, I love thinking back to when I kind of when I first heard Weezer or Nirvana, and going like, oh, hearing that like second Weezer album and being like, whoa, this is so out there.
Right.
Whoa.
I remember as a child being amazed that there were some songs that were like over 3.5 minutes long. I was like, a 5-minute song.
Yeah, King Crimson Wolf messed you up.
Yes, my childhood brain would not have been. I was not ready to enter the core of the Crimson King at that time. But now I'm like, Code of the Crimson King is like, it's just really straight ahead, like straightforward, listenable rock music. It's like, it is a little weird still, but you can't just like throw on like, oh yeah, this is just like a regular thing, and that is like a very approachable, prog, like standby, But there is, and I think people can just like slowly get into stuff, and it's I'm hoping to get them there. Like hoping to poison people's brains at PAX, and go, wait a minute, what are games actually?
Yeah, because it's kind of like I see the two different kind of battles. Like there can be the people who are into games and kind of like making those people kind of go, oh, games can be other things as well. And then there's the people who aren't into games at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like it can be maybe alternative games or something that might make them realize, oh, okay, maybe games could be for me.
Yes. Yeah. A thing I think about is like, and I'll say it to people a lot at conventions when they say, or like usually at like Zine Fest and things like that, when they're like, I don't play games. I'm like, well, these don't think of them as games. Think of them as like art in the shape of a game. And
yeah,
they usually get what I'm saying, even though they never buy it still. But they go, oh, huh. And I think that like gets them maybe one step closer to like maybe playing a game.
Yeah, I'm still like when I'm telling people about the Wii Boats thing here, because it's kind of based on local boats around where I am. So then I'm kind of, it has local interest as well. I'm like showing people in the area, oh look, here are the kind of boats from the area, and so they wouldn't be gamers at all, and I kind of have to qualify it by saying like, oh no, there's no shooting in this. This isn't a shooting game.
Yes.
Because that would be their only reference. So that's kind of I'd like to get as many of those along.
I do sometimes think of like trying to get like a local read on my things like that. So, but as I said in the solo segment, I'm not much of an exhibitor.
Yeah.
There's like
Mm.
there's there's this one store that my sister and I went to that that actually like sells like prints and charms of things. I was wondering if maybe I could try to see if I could sell through there, perhaps. But I I, I don't know how it works. I'm not much of a business person.
I am not, but I think it is possible. I think you might ask them like Ash K up in Toronto sells their games and like some Indiepocalypse stuff because they have their own like tape production they do up there now, and they've been doing for a little while. And they sell them like local bookstores on consignment. And they just kind of asked, like, "Oh, could I sell these on consignment?" And then they're like, "Yeah, sure." Um, it strangely feels like game shops are like the worst place to ask. Like, just the vibes seem off.
Yeah, everyone's there just to get secondhand games that cost like 2,000% more than they with back then.
Right, right. Yes, yeah, exactly. It's all like that retro collecting stuff. Yeah, yes. 5 year old. I mean, uh, exactly. 5 year old memories is a good exactly that is a good place I think to point to like, hey, let me try of things that I think are games, but they're not games. There, I mean, Komitsu's stuff in general, I think, is a great example of interactive art pieces that could kind of pull someone into this idea of like, oh, these are kind of like I get it now a bit more. I imagine game poems when it comes out will be very much a great entry point for the idea of I'm not sure what games are. Or I'm looking for games that fit more into my scope of art.
Yeah, it can, at least I see it in my head as like it can definitely infiltrate like libraries and have
Yes.
kind of library events around that.
I
And
was gonna recommend that to you specifically, especially since you're doing local boats. I'm sure like you could have like a bunch of like libraries might even have art or whatever. You could have those boats out and around because libraries love local art stuff. Uh,
yes, absolutely. And they're kind of also, at least the ones around us here, they're very open to kind of all sorts of media.
yeah,
I think the libraries in Norway are doing a really good job of kind of, they'll have game sections. They have like areas for kids to kind of go and play on switches and stuff, or they'll have they just have events based on all sorts of. I kind of do a bit of a code club for kids
yeah,
in one of the libraries, and they're just open to all sorts of stuff. So, um, I
yeah.
feel like that's a good arena at the moment.
Yeah, I think you definitely could have like, and because it ties naturally, like you could probably I'm sure they have books on history and things around boats. Those like might even some of those specific ones perhaps. Uh,
Yeah, and I'm hoping to, yeah, I'm also hoping to get in touch with like some of the boats themselves. Some of them still run around the place.
right.
Um, one of them is actually a library, or is like a book. It's a book boat that kind of drives around the coast and brings books to and hosts events and stuff
What
on
if
the
Hey, that
boat.
sounds cool.
you should get?
Oh God,
What if you had wee
yeah,
boats on that boat?
that's the dream. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, no, you. The thing I've learned, if anything, is just the most important thing you do is just ask someone.
Yeah, and it's hopefully in progress, but it's very loosey goosey. I've been talking to some people about it, but at the moment it's one of those things that like if it works out, it works out and it'll be great. But if it doesn't work out, sure,
Yeah,
there'll be other things.
that is me. I've sent a lot of emails that never get returned. You know,
Yeah.
it's just part of life. Speaking of part of life, we're going back to life. This non-podcasting life we live.
Very good. Speaking of,
But before we get into the promotion, or before we get to the full end, does anyone have any non-promotional things that they want to, questions or statements they want to get out before we get to the everyone's favorite part of a podcast, which is when people promote their work, so I can find out where these people are.
Well, what's your favorite album?
Okay, that's a tricky one. Okay, I'll try to keep this short. My favorite album often flows with time. I will say in the moment, it's probably Hop Along's Get Disowned. Though it is veering very close to like I might be going back into No Dogs Allowed territory. But I will say the album I think is unimpeachably perfect, and I will not hear anyone say otherwise, is Purple Rain. I think it's nothing but bangers front to back. The only problem with it is that each individual song is too good, and so it prevents you from wanting to go to the next one. That's what I'll say. Yeah. But that's liable to change at any moment. My favorite is those are what
I'm trying to think if I have any random question for you now.
Okay.
But I don't. Oh, my brain isn't working. What was the last film that you saw?
Just this morning I watched Moonstruck. And
what is that?
It's a I think late '80s Cher and Nicolas Cage romantic comedy. I liked it a lot.
Let's go.
It was on. I'm getting the only streaming service I use is Criterion, and I've started to watch like short films on my break at work during my lunch break, and it's been great. Just like mostly because David Lynch can't tell me I can't watch movies on my phone anymore. So I watch movies on my phone, including some of his short films.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
You're threatening to summon him back to this earth.
I know he might haunt me, but I'll do it. I watched The Alphabet yesterday, and then I watched him talk about it. And last night I watched Sinners.
Nice.
Sinners was very good. I've been on someone's recommendation, and this is an experience that's like I recommend that I don't think either of you can have reasonably. But there's a movie called Secret Mall Apartment about a bunch of artists in Providence building an apartment within the Providence Place Mall, and it is playing within the Providence Place Mall, which is an experience to have, and it makes me think a lot about just like the intersection of art and commerce, and like has commerce in this movie existing and there being like little tape art promo tie-in around the mall for this movie has the counterculture of them breaking into the mall and living there been subsumed by the mall and become commerce for the mall, or if they won over, or if they conquered it, and it's made me think a lot about that. And you can think about that in general, but I think it's an experience I can only actually have in that location. It's best spent watching and then wandering around the mall for like an hour and then getting a hot dog and leaving. But it's also
walking through a mall when it's like super quiet or just about to close. That can also be an eerie thing.
there's there are two malls within driving distance of me. One is dead basically, and one is thriving. And it's interesting, but anyway, you asked me the last thing I saw. And I said three things, but
That's absolutely okay. I'm not going to pull you up on that one.
I just recommend that people my hyper regional specific recommendation of go see a movie that may not be airing anymore. They keep extending the show times because I assume strong word of mouth. But it was cool.
That's fun. That's fun when you see local things in a film or something like that, and it's like, oh wow, it's weird seeing things in that kind of context when you're not used to seeing it, or you're used to seeing it every day or something.
Right, because a lot like you just go there and you're just like, oh, I'll have all these things I'm seeing. Like, I walked past all these locations. I know what that is. You know, I did take that same drive, and then you look at all like and then when you're leaving, you look at the little emergency exits they would use, and you go, huh, could I go there? Because they basically found a little, like a construction no man's land within the mall. That was just kind of like an empty space, basically, and they just kind of moved in for like years.
Brilliant, yeah.
I mean, a very cool story on its own, and I think a recommendable movie. But a very singular experience to see it within the space.
Find it.
Yeah. I don't know what its streaming is like, you know.
We'll keep an eye out.
Yeah. Anyway, that all said, anything else, or can we move? Or I shouldn't say can, because that sounds like I'm trying to wrap up. Or are we moving towards the promotional portion of it?
Full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. I'm cranking the wheel and spinning it all around. What do you use for propulsion in that game? Do you have one of those little, those little guys I'm talking about? I'm doing this hand motion that you can't see.
We were trying to figure that out as to, but I think we just ended up in you go forward.
Yes.
And it just that just happens.
What's the word for the go? What's the word for the go forward lever in a boat? You know what I'm talking about?
Like the throttle, maybe?
Yeah, the throttle is probably the right word. It's probably a throttle. There's probably not a special word for a boat one.
But I'm by no means a boat expert, so I it's probably wrong.
Yeah, I am neither. I've been on very few boats. That said, so we're gonna get into the full. I've done my content production obligation. I've reached 2 hours. I've sufficiently produced content this week.
Congratulations, everybody.
Yes, we've made it. We've wiping my brow as I exit the content mines. Have I retained visibility enough for this week for people to not remember me? I think I joked about it on the pledge drive, but the idea of that artists that have long passed away can no longer create content. They can no longer post. And how unfortunate it is. How will anyone remember any of them?
Well, you'll always be remembered by the people you've worked with.
Yes.
You'll continue to live on through people talking about your things.
Right. It's almost as if you don't...
Like David Lynch, we just talked about him.
Right, and he's not on TikTok anymore, posting daily content updates.
He must have just queued it up. I think that's what it is. He had a really big backlog of things queued.
Yes,
and that's why we're still talking about him, because he still has that backlog going.
Absolutely. So whenever people tell you you need to always be producing content or else people will forget about you, they're not lying. They're telling the truth. They're not They're not like content-starved weirdos who just can't disengage. I think that's that's the thing. Oh, sorry.
Forget about content. Think about being content. I stole that from Northern Lion.
I mean, it's a thing to steal, though. I think, like, I am sick of the idea of every artist and person making something in the world having to sell themselves. I think it's on the onus of people to try to seek out new stuff, like to be more interesting, I guess, and to try things that aren't just fed to you through advertising. But it's easier to go there and post than to tell people, hey, try to be more interesting. That said, to find these people's stuff, hey, James, where can people find your stuff if they're looking to find your stuff? All these games we talked about.
Oh no, I'm bad at this bit. So I have a website.
Yes.
Called james.poole, poole.ie, and I generally link to everything there.
Yes.
But itch.io with my name, and I'm taking baby steps into Steam. We have a Steam page live, but there's not much there to do.
Yes.
But that's me.
Have you ever thought about on your business card, you know, like those signs they have at pools, and say, yes, our pool has a lot of E in it. We like to keep it that way. The inverse. I mean, as someone who has to constantly spell their last name, it's a thing I think about a lot.
Yeah.
Like I similarly.
Okay, that's a good idea.
I have that curse, although mine comes from Scottish lineage. I have that curse of an easily said, difficultly pronounced name. No, easily pronounced, difficultly spelt name. That is obnoxious to do, you know.
What are you able to say the name, or is that
yes,
unmentionable?
No, without doxing myself.
Yeah.
No, I have. It's on that aforementioned game poem website. I give it out when people ask, but it's not like I am not a mononym. I'm just private.
Yeah.
No, it's Bailey.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's spelt, not in a traditional Irish way with Y's and whatnot, but with like
an MH somewhere.
But a Scottish way without Y's.
Okay.
And it's an odd way of spelling it, but all these odd spellings aside, Derry, where can people find your work? I'm looking to find it.
Oh, okay. I go under the handle SA Dreamer.
Yes.
I forget what I think it was originally a shortening of like Sensei Dreamer or Should Say Dreamer. Because they both describe Las Vegas perfectly to me.
Yes. I have thought occasionally. I wonder if that was that same show that you mentioned. There's like a Level Up, I think is what it's called. I've occasionally it's a Las Vegas game convention. I think about signing up.
Oh yeah, it's actually going on right now.
Okay, so this is the one. I've thought about signing up for that on occasion, but that means I would need to go to Las Vegas.
Yeah, this place kind of sucks.
It seems like a lot.
Yeah.
And I barely like to go to New York.
Well, I don't know. Maybe this place is better than New York, but so loud here.
Yes, no, yeah, it is. My speed is like Providence is my speed. I love it. It's like oh, this is a city, but it's manageable. There's parking sometimes, and it doesn't cost $8 billion. Sometimes it's free. But yes, S City Dreamer, and then of course.
Oh yeah, I run a site called Indiehouse,
Yeah.
which we talked about. I mainly talk about indie games. Right now, I've recently been going through the house in Fata Morgana, and I
Okay.
hope to finish that game soon. And I'm actually planning to like write something about like this RPG Maker game jam that happened like last month, and working on that. And also, I wrote about Knife Man for April Fools. The joke is writing about music on this game site, not because I sincerely love Knife Man. That's my
Yes.
favorite album.
Yes. With one exception, which uh, I will say I've listened. I think 5 times was as many times in my lifetime that I can listen to American Tune. Um, and I think that is like a 2025 thing more than a that song thing. Um,
Yeah,
um, but otherwise, I was listening to it before this show because I was thinking about it. Uh, the fucking the Michael Jordan of drunk driving is probably one of the best sentences ever written in English.
yeah. The Michael Jordan drunk driving played his final game tonight.
Like,
But as long as you want to feel alive.
truly, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about that turn of phrase constantly. It's
yeah. I think it's a perfect opening song for that album.
yeah. If you haven't out there listened to, give Knife Man a listen. Of all the things we've talked about, an exceptional piece, a thing I highly recommend. The other thing I highly recommend, hey folks, Indiepocalypse, buy that thing. If you buy issues 26 and 28, eventually these nice people here get some cash when it reaches that $5 threshold, because I don't want to get killed by 10,000 payment processing fees.
Which is a miracle. The fact that that happens
I know.
again, it's testament to the Excel sheet.
Right, right. And also, the testament to you earlier, things are worse and they cost more money. It fucking costs money to give money to another person. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyhow, if you want to join Indiepocalypse, of course, indiepocalypse.com/submit. All you do is put your game on an itch page, and then it gets in there eventually, hopefully. And then, .com/tape is where you can get, for instance, the tape market games and the tape club games, like I Hate You, Please Suffer, as this month's monthly tape club game. My kind of more curated approach because I feel like games are extremely bad at curating their history, Feels like there's like a 5 or 10 year cycle and then everyone forgets and starts again. And like indie games have it even worse than that. And then, like, that's for like, mainstream console AAA games get forgotten at that cycle. And there needs to be a better long tail respect for art as the medium, and I think it's getting there. It's just you got to wait out all the old folks who are too caught up in the consumer review lifestyle, But they're the ones with all the big websites. You just got to wait for them to phase out, and then the culture will change, hopefully. That's it, I think. .com /Patreon is where you find Patreon. It is what all these things are. What you think they are. I'll see. Dari, James, thank you for joining me here today. Glad to have you both
Thank
on
you
the
so
show.
much.
Yeah.
Hanging
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, glad to have you both. Have you hanging out. Have you in the zine. In all of this bullshit I do. It is very cool. Just like that, people continue to want to do this, and I like it a
And
lot.
we appreciate it.
It is a cool thing that I can't. Somehow it still exists, and will presumably never stop as people continue to keep making more and more games. That said, goodbye, everyone. I'm shutting it down.